Okay, so in-law relationships, right? They can be tough. We've all heard the jokes, those awkward moments, and
Yeah,
maybe even lived through a few ourselves.
definitely.
And today we are taking a deep dive
Yes.
into how to navigate these sometimes kind of choppy waters when it comes to in-laws.
Right.
We have, for this deep dive, a really interesting mix of sources.
Yeah.
We've got advice from a couples therapist.
Okay.
We have a pastor's perspective.
Interesting.
And insights from a psychologist who specializes in in-law dynamics.
Wow. Covering all the bases.
Yeah, exactly. And then to shake things up a bit, we even have
Oh, wait.
Dr. Jordan Peterson in the mix.
Wow, that's a curveball. I'm interested to hear what he has to say about this.
I know. So if you're ready to learn some practical strategies
Right.
for a more harmonious,
Yeah.
extended family life
Right.
without sacrificing your marriage.
Ooh, that's the key, isn't it?
That is the key.
Yes.
Then let's dive in.
Let's do it.
I think it's so fascinating how
Even though every family's different, right?
Yeah.
Every family situation's unique.
every dynamic is unique.
There seem to be these kind of common patterns
Oh, for sure.
that just pop up again and again
Yeah,
when it comes to these in-law challenges.
absolutely. Yeah, you see it all the time.
And the therapist that we're looking at here,
Yeah.
she actually breaks it down into some
Excellent.
classic difficult in-law types.
Interesting. Classic archetype.
Exactly, like the overbearing type.
It's overbearing in-law.
And she uses the example of Marjorie,
All right, Marjorie.
who just can't help but, like, rearrange the nursery when she goes over to visit
Oh, no.
and give just tons of unsolicited parenting advice.
Yeah, I see.
So, Marjorie's heart might be in the right place,
Yeah, probably.
but it really shows how, like, even well-intentioned actions
Mm-hmm.
can just step on toes and create so much friction.
Absolutely, especially when it comes to sensitive topics like, raising children.
Right. Like major decisions.
Yeah. About how to raise your kids.
Huge.
How do you even know, like, when someone like Marjorie
Yeah.
is really trying to be helpful
Mhm.
versus, like, when it's just too much, where is that line?
That is such a good question. And it's
Mhm.
something that we're going to be exploring
Yeah.
quite a bit, I think,
Yeah.
in this deep dive.
Okay.
You've got on the other end of the spectrum,
Right.
the distant in-law.
Yeah, yeah.
And that can be so tricky, too, because you're always kind of like walking on eggshells. You're never
Yeah.
quite sure
Right.
if you've somehow offended them
Right.
or if they just, are not that interested in being close.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's the judgmental in-law. Always ready with a critique
Yeah.
of your career,
Mm-hmm.
your choices, you name it.
I think we all know a judgmental in-law.
I was going to say, I think everyone has at least one of those in their life.
Right. It's just like, do you even like me?
Yeah, exactly. Where do you even stand with them?
Before we get too deep into these, like, in-law personality types,
Okay.
I want to talk about
Right.
how this kind of tension
Uh-huh.
actually impacts the marriage itself.
That's such a crucial point.
Yeah.
The therapist really emphasizes that
Yeah.
this constant in-law stress forces a spouse to
Right.
feel like they're constantly having to choose sides,
Yeah.
and it just puts a massive strain on the relationship.
And it makes me think about Susan,
Susan.
who we read about,
Oh, right. Yeah.
who was so overwhelmed
Yeah.
by in-law drama
Mhm.
that she almost considered divorce.
Wow.
And it just shows, like,
Yeah.
how high the stakes can get.
Absolutely. I think Susan's story really highlights that,
Yeah.
situations like hers demonstrate
Yeah.
why it's so important for couples
Right.
to present this united front
Yeah, a united front.
when it comes to their in-laws.
Okay, united front.
Yeah, and it's about reassuring
Okay.
the spouse
Mm-hmm.
whose family is causing the issues,
Right.
that they're a team.
They're not alone.
Exactly. It's like, we've got your back.
And it's interesting that you say united front,
Yeah.
because that exact phrase
Mm.
came up in a lot of our sources.
Right.
Like the pastor
Okay.
that we're looking at, he connects that to, like, a biblical concept.
Interesting.
That whole idea of leaving your family
right.
of origin.
Joining and cleaving. Right.
Exactly, to create this new unit with your spouse.
Exactly. To create your own family.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
It is. And it's not just the pastor, Dr. Glick.
Okay,
The psychologist,
right.
he talks about a united front as like
Okay.
a protective bubble around the marriage.
Bubble.
Yeah, like
That's
shielding
their bicy.
from negative influences.
So it's like a force field.
Yeah, exactly. A force field against negativity.
Okay, so how do we even build?
Yeah, good question. This united front,
Right, like, what does that actually look like?
is it just like agreeing on everything?
Well, I think it's more nuanced
Okay.
than that, I think it really starts with
Okay.
grasping this idea
Okay.
of differentiating
What does that mean?
from your family of origin.
Okay, break that down for me.
Okay, so differentiating, it doesn't mean
wow.
you cut ties completely with your
Oh,
family.
gotcha.
It's more about
Right.
establishing healthy boundaries
Okay.
and recognizing that your primary loyalty now
Right.
lies with your spouse
Sure.
and the family
Got it.
you are building together.
Makes sense.
It can be like a really tough emotional process.
Oh, I bet. It sounds like you're trying to balance love for your original family and the loyalty you have to them, right?
Yeah.
The new commitments you made.
Absolutely. And where do those loyalties lie?
Yeah. And how does that relate
to what the pastor was saying?
Oh, that's a great connection, actually, because
Yeah.
it really is beautifully aligned.
Okay.
The pastor talks about
Yeah.
not serving two masters.
Okay.
And it's that same concept, right?
Yeah.
Prioritizing
Yeah.
your marriage and the family that you're building.
Your new family.
Exactly. And I think both the therapist and the pastor are really pointing towards this idea of recognizing
Yeah.
where your loyalties lie
Okay.
and making conscious choices that reflect those priorities.
So this differentiation thing seems pretty central
Yeah, I think
to building that united front,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is kind of like the foundation.
It's like the bedrock.
Yeah, for dealing with all these in-law challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to have that solid base.
But how do we actually put this
Yeah, how do you do it?
into practice? Like, how do we
Yes.
communicate?
These
Yes,
boundaries.
exactly. Like,
Yeah.
how do you have those conversations? Yeah.
Well, the therapist suggests leading with empathy.
Okay.
When you're setting boundaries with your in-laws,
Okay.
using I statements
Right.
to communicate your needs
Okay.
in a calm
Yeah.
and assertive way.
So it's like setting boundaries without being aggressive.
Exactly. It's about being firm but respectful.
Okay. Gotcha.
And Dr. Glick really emphasizes
Okay.
that it's about finding a balance,
Okay.
being firm about those boundaries,
Yeah.
but also reassuring your in-laws
Right.
that you value them
Mm-hmm.
and their relationship with
Yeah.
you.
Right.
It's not about creating a hostile divide.
Okay.
It's about creating healthy space
Right.
for your marriage to flourish.
I like that healthy space.
Yeah, you need that breathing room.
Yeah.
And she even gives this great example script
Okay.
for handling a difficult situation.
Okay.
Like when a son needs to address his mother's criticism
Oh, and
of his wife's decision to be a working mom.
ooh, that's a tough one.
A classic, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
That tension between traditional expectations
Yeah. Yeah.
and modern family dynamics.
What does that script
Oh, yeah.
look like?
Well, it focuses on acknowledging the mother's concerns
Okay.
while still firmly advocating for his wife's choices.
Right.
So it's kind of like threading that needle
Yeah.
between honoring
Yeah.
where she's coming from,
Mm-hmm.
but also being clear about
Right.
what their boundaries are as a couple.
So it sounds like something that a lot of people
I think so, yeah.
could probably use.
A lot of people could benefit from that kind of approach.
All right. Okay, so we've got the united front,
Yeah.
differentiating from your family of origin,
Mhm.
setting boundaries.
Big ones.
But I imagine even with the
Yeah.
best communication,
Right.
hurt feelings are still going to happen sometime.
For sure.
Right. Yeah.
It's inevitable.
What do we do then?
Right. How do you navigate those tricky emotional waters?
Exactly.
Well, that's where I think validation comes in.
Okay.
The psychologist really stresses
Yeah.
how important it is
Mm-hmm.
to validate your partner's feelings,
Okay.
even if you personally think they might be overreacting.
Yeah. So even if you don't understand
Yeah.
why they're so upset,
Exactly.
their feelings are still valid.
Absolutely. It's not about whether you agree or not.
Okay.
It's about creating that safe space
Right.
for them to just express their emotions
Okay.
without judgment.
Gotcha.
So instead of
Yeah.
minimizing their experience,
Yeah.
you try to understand why they feel hurt.
And it's so easy to
Yeah.
fall into that trap of saying, oh, come on, don't make a big deal out of it.
Yeah.
You're being too sensitive.
Right, right.
I've definitely been guilty of that.
I think we all have at some point.
But those kinds of responses,
Yeah.
they just invalidate.
They shut down
Yeah, they totally do.
the conversation
The
partner's
parts.
feelings.
Right. They make your partner feel like they can't come to you with their real emotions.
Yeah.
And that's not what you want.
And a more validating approach might sound like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I see why you're hurting.
Yeah.
It makes sense that you feel that way.
Mm-hmm. given what happened, like really trying to step into their shoes and understand their perspective.
And that shows
that you're on their side.
Exactly. It shows you're a team.
That you understand where they're coming from.
It builds that trust and connection.
Okay, so we've got the united front.
Yeah.
Differentiation, boundary setting.
It's a lot.
Validation.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
Anything else? Anything we're missing?
Well, this is where I think Dr. Jordan Peterson comes in.
Okay.
With a slightly different perspective.
All right, let's hear it.
He suggests that in some cases, the healthiest thing you can do is actually create some distance from certain family members.
Interesting.
He's a big advocate for surrounding yourself with people who genuinely want what's best for you, even if that means taking a step back from some relationships.
That's a tough one.
It is. It can be really hard.
Yeah, because it can feel like a betrayal.
It can,
especially if it's like your own family.
Absolutely. But he argues that sometimes it's the most loving thing you can do, both for yourself and for the other person.
So when you're facing like constant negativity and disrespect at distance,
it can be a way to protect yourself and your marriage from that negativity.
And Peterson doesn't stop there.
Oh, no.
He also talks about not enabling bad behavior.
Don't enable the bad behavior.
Yeah, by making excuses for it.
Right. Call it out.
And sometimes we need to just draw a line and be like, I'm not okay with this.
Exactly. This is not acceptable.
And that actually makes me think of what the therapist said about sometimes needing to dig deeper in couples therapy.
Oh, interesting.
Because she points out that sometimes ongoing in-law conflict is actually a symptom of like deeper problems within the marriage.
So the in-law issues are kind of like a smokescreen.
Yeah, exactly. They're like a symptom of...
Right. They're pointing to something else.
Something else.
That needs attention.
That's going on in a marriage.
That's such a good point.
So it's not always just about like the in-laws.
Right. It's not always just them.
Sometimes it's about using these challenges as a way to...
to look inward.
Look inward and strengthen the marriage.
Exactly. To address the root causes.
And as we're like talking about all this, I'm realizing that this whole subject, it's not just like strategies and techniques. It's about like real people and their feelings.
It's deeply personal.
Yeah. And one thing that stood out to me from the therapist is that...
What's that?
She reminds us to remember that your spouse is in a really tough spot when it's their family.
Oh, absolutely.
That's causing all this conflict.
Yeah, because it's their family.
Yeah. It's so easy to get caught up in our own hurt feelings.
Right, our own perspective.
And like totally forget that our partner is dealing with a whole other
layer.
Web of like loyalties and emotions.
Exactly, and they might understand the need for boundaries, like intellectually, but emotionally.
Yeah.
It can be so much harder.
For them to actually... like stand up to their own family.
So even if we think like they're overreacting, we still have to give them that
extra
like empathy,
that understanding.
Yeah, put yourself in their shoes.
Because remember,
we
are on the same team.
Exactly. You're partners in this.
And approaching these challenges as partners with the goal of creating a peaceful and supportive environment.
Right. That's the goal.
That's where the real strength is.
That's where the magic happens.
And it reminds me of that therapist's emphasis on the united front.
Right. Back to that united front.
It all comes back to that.
It really does. It's fundamental.
You know, it's like they say...
like that.
You can choose your friends.
Oh, yeah.
But you can't choose your family.
So true. That's the classic saying.
But you can choose how you respond to your family.
That's a good point.
And how much space you give them.
You have control over that.
In your life.
Exactly. You have agency.
That's a really empowering way...
It is.
to look at it.
It really is.
It means we're not just like passive bystander.
You're not a victim of circumstance.
In these dynamics, we have the power to...
You have choices.
Yeah, to shape our experience.
That's right.
And create the relationships that we want.
It's about taking ownership.
And it sounds like you're starting to think about...
I am, definitely.
How to apply some of these ideas.
Yeah, this is giving me a lot to think about.
To your own life.
Yeah, it's making me reflect on my own family dynamics for sure.
This has been like a really eye-opening deep dive.
Oh, yeah. So much good stuff here.
I feel like we've been given this whole toolkit
for like dealing with
navigating these choppy waters.
Exactly. These in-law challenges.
Exactly.
And it's a diverse toolkit.
It is, right? We've got therapy.
Yeah.
Religion. psychology, and even Dr. Peterson.
Yeah, even Dr. Peterson.
So for you listening, if you are feeling overwhelmed by in-law issues,
it's a common struggle.
Remember, you are not alone.
So many people are going through this.
Your sources offer practical strategies.
Yeah, solid advice.
For building stronger, healthier connections.
That's what it's all about.
And the key is to be intentional.
Yeah, be intentional.
Remember that your marriage is the foundation.
It's a bedrock.
And to approach these challenges with respect and understanding.
To everyone involved.
For yourself.
Yes.
And for your extended family.
It's a delicate balance.
Before we wrap up,
okay,
I want to go back to Susan's story for a second.
Okay, Susan, yeah.
Because I think it could be really helpful.
I think so, too.
To, hear a bit more about what happened with her.
Okay, so Susan's story really resonated with me.
Yeah.
Because she was really struggling with her in-laws' constant criticism.
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah. And it was specifically about her parenting style.
Oh, that's even tougher.
Right. Because it's such a personal thing.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely.
And they had very traditional views.
Okay.
And they just couldn't understand her. More modern approach.
They just didn't get it.
No, they were very judgmental.
Oh, that's so hard.
And it created so much tension.
Yeah.
That she and her husband were constantly arguing. And she was starting to feel incredibly isolated.
Oh, man.
And unsupported.
It's heartbreaking to think that...
It is.
Was she almost considered divorce?
Yeah.
Of it?
It's a testament to how much these kinds of conflicts can really impact a marriage.
So what turned things around?
Well, the first step was she went to couples therapy.
Okay.
And that's really where they began to understand the importance of that united front. You know, her therapist really helped them see how her in-laws' negativity was impacting their marriage.
It was like a wake-up call.
It was, and they started working on ways
Okay.
to present a more unified front.
So they actually, used some of these strategies?
They did. They took the advice to heart.
Wow.
And they started implementing it.
That's awesome.
And, they learned to set boundaries with their in-laws.
Right.
And they practiced validating each other's feelings.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy.
It rarely is.
Right. It takes work.
Yeah.
And there were definitely some bumps along the way.
Yeah, totally.
But eventually,
Okay.
they started to see a shift.
Oh, good. That's what we like to hear.
Yeah. A positive change in the dynamic.
And what happened with her in-laws?
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
They didn't completely come around.
Oh.
But that's okay.
Oh, okay.
Because the point is, Susan and her husband found ways to protect their marriage.
Okay.
And create a more peaceful environment for their own family.
So a little family.
Exactly. And I think they realized that they couldn't control their in-laws' behavior.
You can't control the people.
You can't.
Yeah.
But they could control their own responses
Right.
and how they chose to react to it.
And that's such a powerful realization.
Right. Because it puts the power back in your hands.
Yeah, that we have more control
exactly
than we think.
Than we've often realized.
Yeah.
When it comes to these kinds of situations.
That we're not just victims.
You're not powerless.
Yeah. Of circumstance.
You have options.
We have choices.
You can choose how to respond.
Yeah. How we react.
And how much space you give them in your life.
So for you listening, as we wrap up this deep dive into in-law relationships.
Into this fascinating world.
Remember this, you are not alone.
So many people are going through this.
There are proven strategies that can help.
Absolutely. There are things you can do.
And you have the power to create positive change.
Positive change is possible.
These sources have given us.
They have so much valuable information.
Knowledge.
Insights, advice, everything.
We've got clear communication.
Yeah.
Healthy boundaries.
Those are key.
The power of validation.
So important.
And even the courage to create distance when needed.
Sometimes that's the best option.
They're all tools.
They are.
That you can use.
Yeah, use them wisely.
Build stronger
and healthy relationships. And healthier relationships, right? That's the ultimate goal.
And remember Susan's story?
Yeah, Susan.
It's just a good reminder.
It is.
That even in seemingly impossible situations, there's always
hope for change. Yeah.
Here's a thought to leave you with.
Okay, I like it.
What's one concrete step you can take this week?
All right, this week challenge.
To implement one of the strategies we talked about.
So putting it into action.
Exactly. Could be a conversation with your spouse about boundaries.
Oh, yeah. Good one.
Could be practicing a validating response.
Like we talked about.
Or even just like acknowledging your own feelings.
Just noticing what's coming up for you.
Yeah, because even small steps taken consistently.
Consistency is key.
Can lead to big changes.
Absolutely. Those small steps add up over time.
Remember, your marriage is the foundation.
It's the bedrock.
Nurture it.
Take care of it.
Protect it.
Yeah.
Build up.
Keep building up.
And you'll be amazed at the strength.
It's true.
And resilience.
You'll be surprised at how strong you can become.
That you can find.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure.
On this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We'll see you next time.
Relationships, yeah.
That's what it's all about.
It is.
And remember Susan's story, because it's a good reminder that even in these seemingly impossible situations, there's always hope. Here's a thought to leave you with.
Okay, I'm ready.
What's one concrete step that you can take this week to implement one of these strategies that we talked about today?
Put it into practice.
Yeah, it could be a conversation with your spouse.
Oh, that's a good one.
About boundaries.
Yeah, start there.
Could be practicing. Like a validating response.
Right, like we talked about.
Or even just like acknowledging your own feelings about this.
Just noticing what's coming up for you.
Yeah, because even small steps.
Small steps.
Taken consistently.
Yeah, consistency is key.
Can lead to big changes.
Absolutely. Those small changes add up over time.
And remember, your marriage is the foundation.
It's the bedrock. Take care of that foundation.
Nurture it.
Yes.
Protect it.
Yeah.
Build it up.
Build it strong.
And you'll be amazed at the strength.
It's true.
And the resilience.
You'll be surprised how strong you can become.
Yeah, that you can find.
It's incredible.
Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure.
On this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We'll see you next time.